Hi there, I'm Patrick Brannon, Mr. Patrick, from the Highlands Biological Station. Today we're going to be talking about seeds and flowers. But let's first talk about the other parts of plants. Plants have three main parts. Down below the ground are the roots. High up above are the leaves. And in between is the stem, the branches and the trunk. The job of the roots is to hold the plant in the ground and to soak up water. The job of the leaves are to spread out in the sun and soak up sunlight to make food. That's called photosynthesis. Remember, plants can't eat. They make their own food. They're producers. So they spread out in the sun, absorb sunlight, take up water from the roots, combine all that together, and form sugars, sap. That's the food for the plant. And the job of the stem is to transport the water and nutrients. But occasionally, plants will also have flowers. So what are flowers for? Just to look pretty? Just to feed a bee? Actually, this is how the plant reproduces. Flowers make seeds, and inside seeds are little baby plants. The purpose of the flower is to attract pollinators, like bees or butterflies. They'll carry pollen from flower to flower. And until it gets pollen, it can't make those seeds.
So this is the inside of seed. Inside of seed, you have the baby plant, which is called an embryo. The arrow is pointing to it. You can even see the little leaves on there. But the rest of the seed is the food source. When the seed is put in the ground, it has to have some food to start sprouting. But eventually, it will come out of the ground and grow leaves, and then it will photosynthesize and make food for itself.
So let's examine the parts of a flower. Of course, the petals are for attracting pollinators like bees, as is the nectar and the smell. But the flower is for reproduction, so it has usually both male and female parts. This long part in the middle here, right there, that's the female part of the flower. That's called a pistil. And all of these little things sticking up there, those are the male parts of the flower. Those are called stamens. They're what produce the pollen. So a bee or something lands on the flower, gets pollen all over it. It flies to another flower and delivers the pollen to the female part. Then the female part can produce seeds. At the bottom of the flower is what we call the ovary. Inside of that are little things that are called eggs, and they turn into seeds. So once the flower is pollinated by a bee, it starts to produce seeds. That ovary will gradually begin to swell. The flower has dried up, but the ovary has swollen. Now it will become a fruit. And inside of the fruit are seeds. So if I cut this open, you should be able to see seeds. I'm going to set this down for a second. Okay, so inside you can see all the little seeds forming. So what that means is that fruit used to be the bottom part of a flower. All fruit were once flowers, and they contain seeds. So that means anything with seeds is technically a fruit. Vegetables are stems, roots, and leaves. But a fruit was once a flower and has seeds in it. So tomatoes are fruit. Squash are fruit. Green beans are fruit, because all of those were once flowers and contained seeds. Vegetables would be like carrot, that's a root, or spinach, that's a leaf, or celery, which is a stem. So let's take a look at a diagram of a flower. That way you can see the parts better. These green leaves underneath are called sepals. That's what covered the flower when it was a bud and protected it before it blossomed. But now that it's bloomed, these pink things are the petals. They're brightly colored to attract pollinators. These gray things are the stamens, the male part of the flower. On top of the stamen are anthers, which produce the pollen grains, that yellow powder. This yellow thing is the pistil, the female part, made of the stigma, style, and ovary. And inside the ovary are ovules, or egg cells. So along will come a bee or something. It will go down in there to get the pollen or the nectar, and it will rub up against these stamens and then get pollen all over its body. Then it will fly away to another flower. When it lands on that flower, some of the pollen will rub up against the pistil and fertilize the eggs. These eggs will eventually become seeds, and the ovary will become the fruit.
So this is an apple. If you look at the bottom of an apple, you can still see parts of the flower. They've just dried up. So those little green leaves are sepals, which covered the flower when it was a bud, and the little brown things that are dried up are what's left of the stamens. So a fruit was once the bottom of a flower, the ovary.
So why go to all that trouble to make fruit? Does the tree use it? No. Animals use it. We eat it, right? Now, when we eat an apple, we don't usually eat the seeds. But if a bear or a deer ate this apple, it would eat the whole thing, seeds and all. Is that good or bad? Well, the parent tree doesn't want its little babies growing up right underneath it. It wants to spread its seeds out across the land. And one way it can do that is inside the bellies of animals. So the bear or the deer eat the apple and the seeds. They carry it miles away, and eventually they go to the bathroom and they've planted the seeds. So the purpose of the fruit is to attract animals to eat it and spread their seeds. But seeds can be spread other ways too. Things like dandelions are wind dispersed. So the wind spreads their seeds. Other seeds can be spread on your clothing or on your dog's fur. We call them hitchhikers or beggar lice. They stick to your pants when you walk through the tall grass. They can be washed away by the rain. So there's a variety of ways that seeds can be spread.
Not all plants produce flowers, however. Things like pine trees don't have flowers. Instead, they dump their pollen into the wind. Remember, the purpose of a flower is just to attract pollinators like bees and butterflies. But you don't have to. The pollen can be delivered by the wind. So pine trees have male cones and female cones. So these are the ones that produce the pollen. This time of year, they dump pollen all over the place into the wind. And some of that will land on the female cone and produce the seeds. So there's an insect being attracted to the flower. So it's drinking the nectar, but while it's in there, it's getting pollen all over it. So when it goes to another flower soon, it will deliver pollen and produce seeds. Okay, so remember, the flower is just this part of the plant. Sometimes we call this whole thing a flower, but in reality, it also has stems, leaves, and roots. So until next time, please visit us at highlandsbiological.org, and I hope to see you soon.